Riders crave thrills, not spills, but these 15 motorcycles cause more crashes than cheers. We're listing some of the most disliked bikes in US history to show how design mistakes turned would-be great machines into major disappointments. Which bike holds the title as the worst? Let's find out. Number 15. 1987 Suzuki 250. The 1987 Suzuki RM250 is a bike with its share of ups and downs. Back in the early 80s, Suzuki was at the top of motocross racing thanks to their innovative 1981 RMs featuring full floater suspension, which set new standards for performance. But things turned sour when Don Richardson, an inventor, took them to court over claims they had used his patented design without permission. The jury agreed with him and awarded up to $19 million in compensation. This legal issue may have affected how Suzuki's bikes performed in the years that followed. The RM250 models from the mid-1980s didn't live up to what people hoped for. By 1986, Suzuki changed their rear suspension and made more updates in 1987. However, these changes didn't help much with engine performance, as many riders felt that a 1982 RM250 was better than any model from the late 80s. Number 14. 1997 Honda CR250R. The 1997 Honda CR250R left a memorable mark, but not for the best reasons. It was Honda's first dirt bike with an aluminum frame, which didn't turn out well. This model is infamous because it caused Jeremy McGrath to leave Honda. The aluminum frame made the ride too stiff for the suspension back then, resulting in bumpy rides. Ironically, if McGrath had stayed with Honda, he probably would have won the 1997 Supercross Championship. Over time, Honda riders like Larry Ward and Michael Craig started to like the bikes after they fixed the suspension problems. However, the CR250R was known for having a rough ride and very strong top-end power. This made many people in motocross cautious about using aluminum frames for years. The bike sparked a lot of debate among fans and racers, leaving both good and bad opinions in the community. Number 13. 1981 Harley-Davidson Sportster. The Harley-Davidson Sportster made its debut in 1957 and quickly gained a reputation for great performance. It could hit the impressive mark of 100 miles per hour, often referred to as the ton, and was noted for its strong acceleration from low speeds, making it highly competitive among motorcycles. However, the 1981 model had some significant design issues. The bike's length and top-heavy build made it stable when going straight, but difficult to handle around corners or during different riding conditions. These problems hurt its overall flexibility and performance. Also, the Sportster needed to be ridden at slower speeds, which wasn't great for those wanting a high-speed ride. Even though the Sportster had a strong history, the 1981 model didn't quite live up to it and wouldn't make top lists of that era's motorcycles. Many riders found it hard to handle, making it tough for anyone looking for an adaptable or faster bike. Number 12. 1971 Suzuki TM400. The TM400 was Suzuki's first big shot at building a top-notch motocross bike. This machine had serious power, designed to compete with the best out there. But not everything hit the mark. The suspension system wasn't great, both shocks and forks didn't do their job well enough. Handling was tricky because of its flexible frame with poor geometry. It also featured an electronic ignition known as pointless electronic ignition, which sounded cool but wasn't very reliable. The TM400 also didn't have good instruments, making it hard for riders to know how they were doing. In 1975, Suzuki fixed this by adding heavier flywheels for more stability and sorting out the ignition problems. But even with these changes, the TM400 remains a notable part of Suzuki's motocross past, costing about $1,500 back then. Number 11. 1975 Yamaha T750 Flat Tracker. This bike is as rare as spotting Bigfoot these days, and most of them are now in museums. Back in its time, it was one of the quickest bikes around. Famous racer Kenny Roberts won a race on this model but swore never to ride it again because he thought he wasn't paid enough for dealing with such a beast. If you're thinking about buying a vintage bike like this, you might want to reconsider. The TZ750 isn't an easy ride despite its powerful 125 horsepower engine. It's especially tricky on dirt tracks. Number 10. 1992 Honda CBR 900RR. The Honda CBR 900RR, made between 1992 and 1995, had a similar problem to the 1985 Suzuki GSX R750. Despite being very popular back then, its biggest issue was the small front wheel size of just 16 inches. This smaller wheel had to turn faster than other bikes, but also made handling difficult for inexperienced riders who often found it tough to control the bike smoothly with throttle and steering inputs. Imagine trying to ride from the bar to the beach in a half helmet and flip-flops. It could quickly become too much to handle. While the CBR 900RR was a reliable machine, it wasn't ideal for nervous riders or those unfamiliar with controlling speed and balance on bikes. This motorcycle often needed more experience and confidence than what casual riders might have. Number 9. 1954 Greaves. Introduced to the market in 1954, Greaves motorcycles were known for their lightweight design and ran on Villiers 200cc two-stroke engines. While they earned a good reputation overall, not every model was perfect. Some bikes had issues that riders preferred to steer clear of. Notably, many models faced consistent trouble with leading link front forks, which made riding challenging even for seasoned motorcyclists. A significant problem was with the suspension, which would become less effective when braking. This made for an uncomfortable ride and has been a known issue since Greaves motorcycles were first introduced. Riding these bikes can be quite challenging due to this flaw. Number 8. 1960 Aerial Aero. This model hit the market in 1960, but stopped production in 1964. The standout model was the Aerial Aero Supersport, also called the Golden Arrow, known for its distinctive color design. It had a unique pressed steel beam frame and stylish bodywork with both a windshield and leg shield included. Remarkably, it was among the few British bikes from that period made using plastic materials. The bike had a unique design, but it faced handling issues. The mufflers were placed too low, making turning difficult for riders who needed to lean into curves. Despite its stylish look, the Aerial Aero's performance didn't live up to expectations. It was priced at about $400, highlighting its status as an interesting yet flawed option in the market. Number 7. 1985 Suzuki GSX R750. The 1985 Suzuki GSX R750 was a powerful bike that required respect. If you weren't careful, it could easily give you a scare, especially back in the day. With its shorter swing arm compared to modern bikes, it felt shaky at higher speeds. Many riders thought its short 56-inch wheelbase made handling tricky and nervous. Weighing around 400 pounds with about 100 horsepower, its steering angle didn't seem extreme then, but added to an edgy riding experience overall. In its early days, the GSX R750 was like an old bike with a burst of energy. Over time, tweaks have made it more fun to ride. However, back in 1985, its aggressive design made it tough for beginners who weren't used to that kind of power. Number 6. 1972 Kawasaki 750 H2 Mach 4. This bike was all about power but didn't really focus on safety. Their previous model, the 500cc H1 Mach 3, wasn't too successful, so they decided to go bigger with a powerful 748cc two-stroke triple engine. The new motorcycle boasted an impressive 74 horsepower and generated significant torque at 57.1 pounds per foot. However, it used the same weak frame as its predecessor, which made it quite unstable and risky to ride. To make things worse, the suspension system couldn't handle the bike's weight properly, while poorly balanced rear wheels led to serious handling problems. Kawasaki claimed the H2 could hit 125 miles per hour, but riders discovered that after reaching 3,500 RPM, it often popped wheelies without warning. Weighing it at 420 pounds, it was tough to handle and led to many accidents. Even pro racers didn't want to ride it. Despite improvements in later models, the reputation of the 1972 version hurt sales badly, leading Kawasaki to stop making the H2 Mach 4 by 1975. Number 5. 1970 Honda CX500. The Honda CX500 was first produced in the late 1970s as part of the CX series. This series also included models like the GL500 and GL650 Silverwing. Although Honda has a great reputation in the motor industry, the CX500 faced challenges from day one. One major issue was its poor maneuverability at low speeds, making it tough for riders to control smoothly. Despite these problems, it still sold well in many markets. However, in the United Kingdom specifically, there were serious issues with its crankshaft that became a significant drawback. This problem caused the bike to break down often, and it didn't build a strong reputation. By the mid-1980s, most places had stopped making the CX500, leaving behind mixed opinions about it. Even though it wasn't Honda's best model, people still bought and used the bike despite its issues. Number 4. 1969 Kawasaki 500H1. Kawasaki is famous for its top-notch motorcycles, but the 1969 model 500H1 had mixed reviews. It boasted a powerful engine that made it very fast, which was one of its best features. Unfortunately, this power also led to some serious issues with handling and safety. Many riders found it hard to control the bike at high speeds and often complained about how unstable it felt. When the bike hit over 4,500 RPM, its front wheel would dangerously lift off the ground and make it hard to control. To add to these problems, its brakes weren't strong enough for how fast it could go, which raised more safety concerns. Because of such issues, many people avoided choosing the 500H1 as they put a high priority on staying safe while riding motorcycles. Number 3. 1955 Vincent Black Shadow, Black Prince, and Black Knight. These bikes hit the market in 1955 and quickly earned a reputation for being the fastest around. While their speed was impressive, they came with serious issues. Riders often found them hard to handle and quite scary on the road. So even though these models were famous for their amazing speed, many remember them for how tough they were to ride safely. Although these bikes had serious problems, they were still loved in Australia and New Zealand because people enjoyed their speed. Even with prices often hitting several $1,000s, the Vincent Black Shadow and its different versions are still favorites among motorcycle fans. Number 2. 1969 Kawasaki two-stroke triples. In 1969, Kawasaki came out with the H2 Mach 3, a powerful 500cc motorbike. Then in 3 years, they followed it up with the even larger and stronger H2 Mach 4 at 750cc. These bikes quickly became famous for their exciting yet scary ride experience. Weighing about 400 pounds, riders sat far back on these motorcycles, making them prone to popping wheelies when you really hit that gas pedal hard. Some people loved this burst of speed, but others found riding them too tough to handle safely. The bikes had thin, lightweight frames that weren't very stiff, making them hard to handle. This was especially true because the tires available in the early 70s were pretty basic. Their front forks were just 34mm thick, thinner than other street bikes at that time, which made rides even shakier. The H1 model also struggled with poor brakes and unreliable ignition systems, adding more challenges when riding it. Despite these issues, Kawasaki's daring design still drew in thrill seekers looking for an exciting experience. Number 1. 1983 Three-Wheeled ATV. In the early 80s, three-wheeled all-terrain vehicles, or ATVs, quickly became popular. These first trikes were simple with their big tires for off-roading and could go up to 25 miles per hour. At that time, people didn't seem worried about safety because Americans liked bigger and faster rides. So companies made larger and heavier trikes, but this led to many accidents. These new models often ended up in ditches. In the 1980s, there were many safety issues with three-wheeled ATVs, leading to frequent recalls and eventually a complete ban. Manufacturers stopped making these trikes, but later introduced free safety classes for anyone interested in buying the remaining units. If you found this video enjoyable, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section below.